Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Rewind Zone here on RUE MORGUE TV. My name is Yasmina, your host, where I like to sit here and talk about my favorite 80s and 90s underground, underrated movies that nobody ever talks about. And one of those is David A. Pryor's 1983 slasher So yes, we here at RUE MORGUE magazine are heavily focused on horror films. And of course, I love horror movies. However, I love action movies. I started out loving action movies before horror films because my parents were super religious. So they just forbade me from watching anything that had satanic elements in it. But, you know, violence was okay. David A. Pryor is a legendary action movie filmmaker, especially the B-movie, lower budget ones. I mean, he co-created AIP, Action International Pictures, with David Winters and Peter Uval in 1986. They distributed more films than they produced, but one of the very first ones is Deadly Prey, the most important one.
In Nam, he was the perfect killer. Now, he'll have to prove it again.
Run, you're gonna die.
Mike Danton is Deadly Prey.
David A. Pryor is mainly known for making action movies that contain his brother Ted and Cameron Mitchell in them. However, his very first movie, Sledgehammer, was a slasher in 1983, and it was shot on a very low budget, like 10 grand, I believe, and it took 7 days, and they filmed it in their apartment. The most important thing about Sledgehammer is it's one of the first SOBs that didn't have a theatrical release. So Sledgehammer is history. And they even had to make a deal with a production company to use their broadcasting equipment, hence the low budget. However, they came into some issues in post-production when he realized that the length of the film was not feature film length. So what they had to do was make a lot of the scenes slow motion. A lot of Sledgehammer is slow motion, and a lot of people know it based on this. However, I think that it's notable for the woos. There are so many woos in this movie. Like, fuck the slow motion shit. Like, these guys are just like, woo, woo, woo. There's so many more woos in this fucking movie. So Sledgehammer is your basic slasher plot where there's a masked killer that has a haunted past that picks off people one by one. The opening segment of Sledgehammer is a mom yelling at her young son, and she stuffs him in a closet so she can fuck her boyfriend. And her boyfriend looks like a magician. While he's getting a blowjob, the back of his head gets smashed in with a sledgehammer. Of course, in slow motion, and it's glorious. So it's 10 years later, and there's a group of friends that are vacationing at the same house. And Ted Pryor is shirtless. And this is wonderful because he's obviously a bodybuilder, very easy on the eyes. Guess what, folks? You should just Google Ted Pryor Playgirl. You're welcome. Oh yeah, and then there's a scene when they're inside of the house and they're crushing beers and there's music, and we're graced with Ted's dancing. Later on, Ted is playing acoustic guitar, sitting with Joni outside, and the camera pans over the attic window, you know, and it's like very ominous, and it's like, So then there's like a dinner scene, and Ted pours mustard on his girlfriend's head, and of course, a food fight ensues. And of course, the girl that gets the least amount of food on her gets to shower first. So she's on her way to take a shower. We see a sledgehammer in the hallway sitting against the wall, but then it just like vanishes in thin air. There's like a supernatural element going on here. Okay, so is it a ghost? I don't. Later, it's nighttime, and they're listening to music, and Ted slowly scratches the needle on the record to turn the music off. Yikes, that's terrible for the record player. And then he says, it's time for a seance. And then this like incredible like fade transition happens. Gotta love that, you know, like early 80s edits. Ted is telling the story of what happened 10 years ago of, you know, like the two murders in the house, and the boy was never seen again. The killer was never caught. The first time I saw this movie, I like almost shit my pants laughing so hard. The camera is like slowly panning across his friends, you know, intensely listening. One of the guys has this like absurd look on his face. Like it's like he's trying not to laugh and his eyes keep like moving side to side. The first time I saw this movie, I was like, what's wrong with that guy's face? Like, this is amazing. And then like he's telling the story and everything, and then like they do it again, like the camera like pans across them and he like winks at the camera, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Oh fuck, it's like making me cry right now. The killer like actually materializes and oh boom, stab to the neck. You're dead. So of course there's a slow motion sex scene. Joni finds the dead body of the guy that got stabbed in the throat. And then we see the boy. So it's the killer, but he's like in child form. Sandwich Guy is the one responsible for the first walk while Ted and the other two girls are sleeping. He decides to actually go looking for the killer so he can kill him. And he has a knife and he's going upstairs into the attic. While the Sandwich Guy is upstairs, he sees the kid and he's like, holy shit, what the fuck? Kid, what are you doing here? And he watches the kid go into this room, close the door. He sees another door with like a spooky cobweb over the doorknob. And I'd have to say that this is my favorite slow motion shot. It's just a slow motion shot of his hand opening the doorknob. That's it. I love it a lot. And then all of a sudden his dead friends are in the room and there's a bloody pentagram on the wall and boom, you're dead. Ted and the girls are awake and they're like, shit, where's our friend? They go upstairs, they find the room, and they see the killer, but he's back in child form. The kid is all like, fucking trying to stab Ted. And this part is actually like pretty funny, but the fucking child slaps the shit out of Ted Pryor. Maybe he has supernatural strength, like, I guess, because, like, Ted is, like, a bodybuilder, but this kid's just, like, whoop-ah, and he goes, like, flying into the wall. And then he changes back to adult form, and, of course, there is slow motion altercations happening. The last scene of the movie is Joni is the final girl, and the killer is trying to go after Joni, and she does a pretty good job at fighting him off, but I don't think the killer stands a chance against Mike Denton. No way. All right, so that's the end of that. Thanks again for joining me on this episode of the Rewind Zone here on RUE MORGUE TV, where I discussed Sledgehammer, action movies, David A. Pryor, AIP. I love all of it. Please tell your friends to subscribe to RUE MORGUE TV's YouTube channel. Don't forget, be kind, rewind, or else you're gonna get fucked by a sledgehammer.